So, a lot of the time when people are procrastinating, I think it's maybe due to some kind of nervousness about what they're working on, maybe a dissatisfaction with it, or feeling of hopelessness. Sometimes I think it's just laziness, or not enjoying what you're doing, wanting to do other things, getting distracted, which is an increasingly common cause of it. But I think it can also be a kind of a useful indicator that maybe something is wrong. So I think it's important to actually try and assess why you're procrastinating, if there's a specific reason for it. But also, I think it's something I talked about in another video, but I think sometimes if you're looking at something constantly, or you're constantly working on the same project, it's hard to really see it properly and to judge it accurately. So I think sometimes procrastination is just avoidance of that kind of tunnel vision you get when you're working on the same thing for a really long time and you keep looking at it. So in that respect, I think there are a lot of things you can do to make use of that and to kind of work within your own impulses to at least be more productive. For me personally, the best way to do this is to have kind of quite different projects on the go at once. For example, doing these videos, or working on like a full-length album whilst also doing singles that are in a completely different style, or working on videos, or working on other skills that are not necessarily like immediately useful but might be in future. And I think nowadays I think people have much shorter attention spans, so it's harder to maybe work on one song for like 10 or 11 hours, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's like I think that's just something we can like work around and use, not necessarily to our advantage, but I don't think it has to be a disadvantage. I think it's good to try and find ways of adapting to having a kind of disjointed or kind of choppy workflow, where if you're going to get distracted, it's better to be distracted by something productive or by other aspects of your own work. And I've found actually it's a really good way for me to accidentally force myself to do something I didn't want to do, is to have an even more important and even more boring task to do, and then I end up getting so much other stuff done. So recently I've been trying to, what I mean is I get so much other stuff done in avoidance of that task before eventually doing that task when I need to. So I think there's an inevitability to putting off certain tasks, or not a complete inevitability, but it will happen a lot. There's certain things you'll do at the last minute when you kind of absolutely have to, unless you're very organised and disciplined. But I don't think most people are to that extent that they would sort of never do that. So I think then it's a matter of saying, all right, well, you're going to delay this until like the end of the month when you're at your deadline. Are you going to be distracted by kind of boring, pointless things? Or at the very least, if you need to remove yourself from it, try to find something else that's in quite sharp contrast with it, that might buy you some time later in the year, that might be useful for another project, because it's not necessarily possible to just rewire yourself overnight. It's good to be more focused, obviously, but I don't think you can just change yourself to be able to kind of immediately work in a way that's unnatural to you. So I think it's better to figure out some kind of structure or method that is actually suitable for you whilst working to maybe develop more discipline or focus in the long term.